welcome to Give Me a Break Pointcast. I'm Money.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Rob.
And this is our very first episode where tennis fans turned friends turned podcasters. We spend most of our time talking about tennis all year round anyway. So let's talk about the concept. What we'll do is we'll try and upload episodes every week. We will have episodes focused on different topics around tennis that we either want a break from or we want that thing to carry on. So today our theme is give me a break from big three comparisons. And
The eternal debate.
The eternal debate. We will also have a segment where we'll talk about who we're love watching and following throughout the season. So each of us will have two players that we're love watching. Get it? Like Love 15, Love. All three of us have picked two players each who we love and have supported for years. And
this is one from the WTA side and one from the ATP side.
That's right.
Just to clarify.
And then we've got another segment, which is going to be hosted by Laurent. So over to you so you can explain your segment, Laurent.
Basically, so I'm going to talk about statistics, which I love talking about. And also I'm constantly spamming the group chat about. And the name of the section is How's That? A very brilliant idea from Money and Rob.
Bit of sport crossover from cricket. How's Stat? Get it? Everybody gets it? Yeah.
You'll find a lot of sport crossovers in this point.
A lot of sport puns.
And every week, I'll bring you a number of selected stats, mostly about the topic that we're talking about. For example, this week, we're talking about big three. So today, I've prepared three what I think are unbreakable stats or the most impressive stats for each of the members of big three.
Rob's got a fun segment as well, which we're kind of calling Check This Out for now. So, Rob, what's your segment?
So it's basically just what is happening throughout the week. Anything, could be a tweet, could be a viral moment that's gone big, just anything that's really of note. Just one, maybe two, who knows.
Not even necessarily about tennis, because it's just a check this out segment. Could be anything.
And as you'll find out, we will be doing crossover with other sports. So this can transcend into, I don't know, we've got F1, we've got football, we've got rugby, anything, cricket, as we've just said. This podcast is predominantly tennis, but we're having other sports in as well.
Yeah. While we're introducing our side quests, I'll make note that Rob and I will be doing some episodes on Formula One as the new season is kicking off very soon. And when we upload episodes for Formula One, our episode names will be Give Me a Break, as in car break. B-R-A-K-E. Yes. So let's get into our episode for this week, which is Give Me a Break from Big Three Comparisons. I think this is the only way really for us to inaugurate this podcast, because not only are the big three like the most relevant thing when it comes to tennis, it also is a big part of our origin story as mates, because we met in 2023 in the Wimbledon queue.
Day one of the championship 2023.
That's right. It was the very first day. And how the Wimbledon queue works is that if you're smart and know what you're doing, you will get a cue card at least the day before, so that you've got a number that is small enough that you've got a good chance of getting center court tickets, or at least court one tickets. Ideally, it's less than 500. But we weren't that good. I think we were, but we still made it within
I think we were 900, somewhere between 900
and 1,000.
Yeah,
we were on court one, basically.
Court one, eventually into center court, but that's another story.
Yes, because we joined yet another queue on the inside. And how we met was that when I got my queue card and stood in the queue, this is the night before day one. It's not even the day of the tennis. Laurent was the person standing ahead of me in the queue.
Was I not behind you? We were next to each other.
Yeah, I just remember, we were next to each other.
We were definitely next to each other.
And then I immediately befriended you. And how you introduced yourself was that, I'm a new tennis fan. I haven't been following it for a long time. I'm a new tennis fan, which I think you were just saying that to sound humble, because then as we started speaking about tennis and started getting to know each other, you had all of these amazing stats and knowledge about tennis. And I was like, this guy's been following tennis for a long time. So
I
was
was
that a
not
humble brag
lying.
or
I
what
was
was
not
that?
lying. I only got into tennis a couple of years before that.
Right.
But I was new to like actually attending tennis tournaments in real life. Within 2023 was only the third tournament I attended in real life.
Right.
The first being Roland Garros 2023. So basically 1 month before that.
So wait, what was the second one? What grass court tournament did you go to after?
Eastbourne 500.
That's amazing that you start following tennis and you manage to squeeze in 3 major tournaments within the span
I
of 2 months.
know. That was one of the best summers. I first went to Roland Garros and then came back for Eastbourne 500. I emphasize 500 because it's been downgraded to 250 now, unfortunately.
That's right.
And then after Eastbourne, went to Wimbledon, and the rest of it is history.
So I asked Lauren out for dinner. I was like, do you want to go grab some pizzas from, what's it called? Franco Manca?
Franco Manca, yeah.
So
Near
which
Southfields.
is in Southfields. It's like a 5-minute walk from where the Wimbledon queue is. We sat down, we talked about tennis. Then I introduced the idea to Lauren that I will head back. I'm not going to camp and stay on the premises, which Laurent was doing because he had his camping gear. And basically everybody, that's what the expectation is. If you get into the queue, you're meant to stay in the queue. Whether you need to camp, rain or sunshine, you just stay in the queue. Like that's the protocol.
The hardcore campers will
exactly.
do that.
But I said to Lauren, I'm staying really close. Head back. I'll come back in the morning. Can you mind my spot? And he was lovely and said, yeah, that's okay. I think on the inside, you were worried that you might get caught and that you don't want to like go down with me, but you played it cool.
Yeah.
You didn't freak out. So the next morning I showed up, I joined the queue. I think there was somebody, I want to say father-daughter, just based on optics of their age difference. It seemed like they were they're definitely related. There was this 2 people, and the dad was extremely cross with me. He was giving me the death stare. He knew that I had popped out for the night and then come back. And that's just like, most people in the queue, even if they see somebody else do something cheeky like that, they'll be like, they'll let it slide. Like we've all been there.
Turn a blind eye.
They turn a blind eye. They're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
This guy, he didn't tell
principles.
on me, but he just wasn't happy. So then
the classic passive aggressive Brit.
Yeah. But I think
he's from Sweden.
From Sweden.
Oh.
I was thinking somewhere else in Europe. I was like either German or like a Scandinavian, because
my memory
they're just quite
says
principled,
Sweden.
aren't they? Okay, this is a good opportunity to introduce Rob, because we meet Rob while at this point we've been in the queue maybe, I want to say 5 hours. We're very, very close to entering, but still close, but yet too far. Which if anyone's been in the queue, you know, even if you're moving really close, you know that you're still really far away. But we had made significant
about 30
strides.
to 40 positions ahead of us. There were 2 very enthusiastic fans, Rob and his mate. And
Connor.
we'll hand it to Rob.
Connor, yeah. So, yeah, well, basically, what happened was when you get to the first 500 of each court, so you've got 500 tickets for centre court, you've got 500 tickets for court 1, then you've got 500 tickets for court 2. So you decide which court you want, you get given a wristband, and then the already narrow queue becomes even narrower, where you've got to fit 3 sets of people into something that can probably comfortably fit 2 people in. Anyway, so we've basically, my friend and myself, gone down to our spot. I noticed in front of me, this girl with a backpack on, and there is a credit or debit card just hanging out of this backpack.
That sounds exactly like me.
I'm just thinking, what is this? Like, is she asking to get robbed? Like, so yeah, I basically, being a good Samaritan, tap on the shoulder, hi, do you know your cards out? And you were just blissfully unaware.
I was blissfully unaware, and what I immediately said was, oh, my Q card. And then Rob's like, no, your bank card. And I was like, well, this one's more important right
I
now.
was going to say,
was like,
arguably the cue card is more important.
Arguably, the cue card right now,
Yeah.
I absolutely cannot afford to lose.
At that moment,
Stop the
your
bank
cue
card.
card was more important than your credit card.
I was like, my heart skipped a beat because I was like, what? My cue card is about to go missing? And Rob's like, no, it's your bank card. Your bank card's about to fall out of your bag.
The relief.
This is my bank card.
The relief.
On your face was just
I was like, oh my God, thanks.
night and day.
I still have my cue card. It's all good. And then
yeah,
we started chatting.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the four of us just ended up hanging out a lot, and we took some photos of our wristbands together, which is now our group chat photo and has been since the start. But what was most exciting to meet Rob and learn about was that Connor and Rob were veterans at joining the Wimbledon queue.
Avid Wimbledon queuers.
Like, how many times have you done it now?
My first one was in 2011. Every year from 2011 till 2019. I missed 2019 because I was in Canada at the time. I was traveling.
2019 Wimbledon didn't happen.
Oh no, 2020.
That was the horror. No, 2019 is the final. I know exactly what Lauren's referencing. It's the final. Federer, Djokovic.
Oh,
yeah.
It's the year we shall not remember.
Yeah. But 2020, yes, didn't happen as well because of global pandemic.
For the audience, what just happened was Lauren wants to censor the final of 2019 because Federer lost against Djokovic in a very brutal way when he had match point.
Which of the big three I'm rooting for?
Yes, you'll learn very, very shortly. Yes.
But and so
have you done it since? You've done it since, haven't you? Since you met us?
Yes. So I missed last year due to a litany of reasons. But 2024, 2023, when we all met, 2022, I also did. Yeah, the queue's a lovely place. Last 2024, I met a couple of guys that Connor and I had met in 2022, the year before we met.
Yeah.
And literally, we in the queue again, met them, and it was great. We remembered each other. It was like, meeting an old friend. Fantastic.
That's it. I think that the only thing I would compare the Wimbledon queue to in terms of community and positive vibes and that sense of we all love the same thing is
it's a festival vibe.
It's a festival. It's like Glastonbury. It's the closest thing I can think of, and it's just the most joyous thing. And so the Wimbledon queue is that for me as well. I've done the Wimbledon queue at this point multiple times as well, but with different people and even myself. I've done it on my own.
It's good. It's rewarding going on your own, to be fair.
Yes, it's a test of character. But it's also more fun because you make new friends.
Exactly.
So I've been lucky enough to meet some
and that's
really
exactly
fun
how
people.
It happened. I was going on my own. You were going on your own. And we met each other.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our backstory. And the reason why actually we've got into our backstory of how we met is because while we're in the queue, what people in the queue have to do is come up with creative ways to pass the time. And so what we got into was a big three conversation. And I remember Rob asked all of us to rank our big threes. And Lauren, you go first in terms of how you rank big three for you.
I am fairly confident that my ranking is the most popular ranking. As I gave away earlier, I'm definitely ranking Federer first, followed by his greatest rival, Nadal, and last but not least, Djokovic.
That's right. Actually, I just noticed that Rob was pointing at Andy Murray's book behind him because the question actually was rank your big four. Isn't that right?
I posed the question of the big four, and it kind of got downgraded to the big three, which
by me.
In terms of accolades, I can understand. But being a Brit and supporting, I mean, I've gone on national radio and literally just bigged up.
Because wasn't your number
Mr.
one
Murray.
Andy Murray?
Yeah. Because, I mean, for me, on a personal level, yes. So if I go through my rankings, personal level.
Yeah, give us a breakdown of your personal rankings.
Naturally, Andy Murray is like number one in my heart, clearly. But.
No, definitely.
I can understand. He's not won anywhere near the amount of championships titles as the other three. So I'm actually going with, if I look at it objectively, I'm going to go, you can't say Djokovic isn't number one. However, my number one personally is Andy Murray. And then my number one in terms of impact on the sport is actually Roger Federer.
That's it. So
Well,
when
the
we're doing
personal one
personal
is the most
rankings, we can be
important. Go with your
subjective.
heart, Rob.
That's it. Follow your heart.
That's it.
And how this came up was Rob asked the question, rank the big four. And I said Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, and Murray. And Rob was horrified. I still remember the look on your face. And you're like, what do you mean Murray is four and Djokovic is ahead of him in your list, in your personal list, where we're not even talking about objective stats? Like, how is he not made like the cut ahead of Djokovic in your personal list? And I was like, even in my personal list, the first three have to have at least 20 slams. So based on that, even in my personal list, Andy Murray doesn't make the top three. I'm sorry.
That is a high bar.
It's a high bar. But that's why these guys are in a league of their own. And so when we say, give me a break from big three comparisons, my view is, give me a break. Because the big three represent the golden era of tennis. So comparing them to any other era, especially the players that are currently active, just doesn't make sense. And while we can appreciate how good the new era is, so basically we're talking about Alcaraz and Sinner and how consistent they've been, also just the level of tennis that they're showing is an evolved higher level of tennis that we've ever seen before. But it's because they've grown up watching the big three. They've been inspired by them. They've been able to incorporate features of all of their gameplays into their own, and have then also got state-of-the-art like sports science and technology and fitness training and like nutritional health and all these things. Of course, they're, great and the next level of athlete. But to compare and say peak Alcaraz and Sinner would beat the big three, like, give me a break from those comparisons. I am not here for it. I'm happy to talk about the individual eras of tennis and then we celebrate them. We can compare the big three to each other because they're rivals. And
that's exactly what we're going to do.
But comparing the big three to other eras just doesn't make sense. Compare the big three to competitors within their generation, like Andy Murray and like all the other guys. That's my view. So that's my 1 minute spiel on why I want a break from the big three comparisons. Rob, over to you.
In terms of big three comparisons, I think you could argue that Djokovic is still in contention to be big three then and big three now, if you want to coin the term big three in this current generation. Djokovic has longevity, which is why objectively he really can stand alone at the top. He's the only one that can really be put in the comparison chart between the five players that we've just mentioned. I'm not including Andy Murray in this, but the five players we've just mentioned, the three and the current two of Alcaraz, Sinner. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for comparing and having debates on Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. Don't give me a comparison between Alcaraz and Nadal. Don't give me a comparison between Sinner and Roger Federer. Like you, Money, it's not needed. And I think we just need to, give me a break from big three comparisons.
And I think it's actually like the case of Djokovic bridging new generation and like the golden big three era is actually very similar to how, well, in my opinion, how Federer bridged his era to the era before him, as in the Sampras versus Agassi era, because he actually played against the legends. Like, people still talking about the 2001 Wimbledon match between him and Sampras, the change of guard. People always saying he played Agassi in multiple finals. You could argue that he was in that era, and then he brought tennis to a new level. And then obviously Nadal arrived, Djokovic arrived, and then the rest is history. So like I think it's kind of similar how it's not that meaningful to compare the big three to Sinner and Alcaraz.
Yeah.
The comparison between Fed and Sampras and Agassi not that meaningful either. So I have to agree, please give us a break from the era comparisons.
Yeah.
We will compare big three among themselves and among their generation, and we're going to do that now.
Yeah.
But not cross generations.
Exactly.
We have
And also
consensus.
picking up
Unanimous
on
decision.
Unanimous decision. The pod wants a break from big three comparisons, and also picking up on something that both of you have said. Djokovic is still a part of the current era and arguably, part of the big three, perhaps in the current ATP era. I still think that comparisons with Djokovic today, with Alcaraz and Sinner, the other two in the top three, are just not really that valid because Djokovic is not peak Djokovic. So when we're talking about Alcaraz, Sinner, they're in their prime. They're probably even still yet to
Develop it.
to hit their prime. If anything, they're still going to improve. So because we're lucky enough to get this late stage Djokovic that's still around and really showing the world what an athlete can do in terms of longevity and how if you really commit and take care of yourself and have the most disciplined lifestyle, you can extraordinarily extend your career as an athlete, which I think Djokovic, just got to hand it to him, is exemplary across all sports, not just tennis. And I think he's
respect
recognized
to him.
as
Like
that.
he was getting results against Alcaraz in 2023. He literally won 3 slams in that year. So with all respect, like he is in the current big three conversation. But do we really have to compare the original big three to a current big three?
I don't think so. And this isn't to say that the big three are so superior in what they achieved and so Alcaraz and Sinner are not worthy of the comparison. Absolutely not. Because last year's French Open final that we all watched, glued to our television, the Alcaraz and Sinner final, is absolutely, undoubtedly the best match. Definitely one of but arguably the best match in history. It was an extraordinary display of talent and skill over the 5 hours in the full 5-set match. So while the Federer and Nadal 2008 Wimbledon final is often heralded as, one of the great matches, that match also contained so much drama in terms of external variables. It got late at night, a lot of lighting, and so much was happening. Whereas the French Open final from last year was just pure tennis battling out and momentum shifts, but two people basically playing at the highest level possible and being competitive. And it was just extraordinary. So while I would say that's probably the best match I've ever seen that I think exists in tennis, I would still say that let's compare Sinner and Alcaraz to the rest of the field in their era. I don't want to compare them with big three when they were in their prime. It's just not a valid comparison because of everything that we talked about.
You were talking about Wimbledon 2008, not just the players, even the tournaments in general, the hardware, everything was upgraded. The reason why we don't see like what happened in 2008 won't happen again because we've got roof, we've got floodlights installed. So those will never happen again. Yeah. And it's okay because things have changed and it's a different era. Yeah. So
there were other factors that made it like pure cinema, that match. But you're right. Like now that we've got the roof, we won't have those, we won't have dramatic matches that are impacted by conditions as much.
We have that as well. You will also have the rule changes as well in terms of like the 10.
No more long games.
No more. Is the 5th set 10 games.
The challenges.
And the challenges as well, yeah.
Whether we should keep long games or not will come up in a future episode.
And I'm sure technology as well will have its own.
No more challenges.
No more challenges.
Anything tennis related,
everything
will
automated.
Be covering.
Doesn't challenges feel like talking about something from the 80s? I don't know why challenges feels like so long ago, even though it was just a few years ago. But the whole idea that we're going to stop the match because we're reviewing and then it can go either way, and how you use your challenges because you've only got 3, and if you make a challenge and it's incorrect.
Recency is bias. 2017 Australian final that we always talk about. The last point was literally decided by Hawkeye. It was literally a challenge.
This is Nadal versus Federer, and Federer won.
Like, just like VAR in football, these technologies only come around in the last few years. But because of how like recency bias, like we feel like, oh, it's been here forever. And
Yeah.
like challenges, like we're talking about 80s or 90s.
Yeah. It sounds like an ancient thing, whereas it was just relevant for like a decade of tennis. And it was instrumental. It was like a match within a match. It was a game within a game, you know, like how you utilize your challenges, whether you're strategic about it was also a part of the match. No, Federer hated Hawkeye, and so he would get frustrated and just use up all of his really fast so that he didn't have to think about it. But some players were very good in how they would use the Hawkeye challenges.
Using it to break up play, just take a bit of a break mentally, disrupt the rhythm of the opponents. Yeah, it's all. I'm sure all the big three have utilized it in some way to their advantage.
A lot of the times it's like wishful thinking. It's like, oh, I don't know, but maybe if I just challenge it, maybe it just clips the edge, you know? So stats, Laurent, do you have any stats for us specific to the big three that you wanted to share?
Yeah. So as I said, stats is paramount. Like we cannot have any big three debate without stats. And so in today's house stats, I'm bringing what I think are the most impressive records for each of the members of big three, and we'll let Money and Rob decide how impressive or how unbreakable these are. So we'll start with Federer, and first record we have got is his 237 consecutive weeks on top. He first got number 1 ranking on the 2nd of February 2004, and he held that until the 17th of August 2008. That's 237 weeks consecutively. What do you think?
It's so brilliant.
I think that's unbreakable. I don't see any one player keeping 4 years worth of world number 1.
Yeah, that is such a brilliant stat. And if anyone was going to do it, it would be Djokovic in terms of his consistency in being able to stay number 1. I think that knowing that we've got Alcaraz and Sinner already who are so competitive, and they're probably going to be swapping between them for very many years, to have that dominance, because Federer was synonymous with dominance, you know, when he was peaking. And so I just don't think that dominance will be achieved again.
Yeah, agree. I mean, Djokovic broke the most number of weeks at number 1 in total, but not the consecutive number of weeks. Just shows how dominant Fed was at that time. And
legend.
The second stat we've got also reflects that, because the next one we've got is his 10 consecutive major finals. And that was from 2005 Wimbledon all the way to US Open 2007.
So just to clarify, these are Grand Slam finals.
Yes. And the second place is 8 consecutive finals, which is also held by Federer, from French Open 2008 to Australian Open 2010. And that would make 23 consecutive semifinals at majors. We only have 4 majors each year, and he reached 23 consecutive semifinals from Wimbledon 2004 all the way to Australian Open 2010.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That just shows his longevity, doesn't it, really? Like, he is, I mean, how many years is that? It's like 5 years?
That was from 2004 to 2010.
Okay, so
that's
6 years.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And the last stat we've got for Fed is he's played a total of 1,526 matches, official matches, according to ATP. And as you might know, he never retired. Never retired mid-match. What do you think?
I just echo what I said earlier about his longevity. That's incredible.
I think this is my favorite Federer stat, because it's so underrated, but it's so extraordinary, because it goes to show what a supreme physical specimen he was, because he just wouldn't get injured. And so any niggles he had, whatever, he would still just manage to get through and just stay fit on the circuit, which then speaks to the other stats that you shared. The reason why he was so consistent and back to back to back making finals and staying number 1 consecutively is because he wasn't getting injured, whereas my poor Rafa was just injury prone. He's like, every part of his body has been broken at some point. And, you know, Djokovic is also really, really good, but he had that pivotal shift after he dropped gluten and he really became as
And picked up
consistent as he is
yoga.
now.
Machine, yeah.
But before that, Djokovic would actually retire from matches quite frequently. I remember he had that breathing thing as well, that he would mid-match
Yeah.
just get very hyperventilated. So Federer being so physically fit that he's never retired from a match is actually, I think, my favorite stat about him. My favorite. I'm going to put it out there. It's probably my top 3 favorite stats in tennis.
Okay, so why don't we go on to Nadal and Djokovic, and then we'll come up with a top 3.
Yes. Okay.
So-
That's a good idea.
Why not?
For Money's favorite, Rafa Nadal first, and most definitely we have to say 14 French Open titles. This is insane.
It's insane.
This is probably one of the most unbreakable records we've got,
It's just beautiful.
and it's just self-explanatory. We don't need to elaborate on that.
We really
The
don't.
second one
And
we've got.
the fact that his footprint is now on a plaque on the court forever. So anytime anyone's playing on the center court, which is Philippe Chatrier at the French Open,
It was a
Rafa's
genius.
foot's
It was
on
a
there.
genius idea. I think it actually works much better than renaming the court. They offered to rename the court after him.
Yeah. Did they?
They actually offered to rename it to Court Rafa Nadal.
I thought they couldn't do that because the Barcelona one is called Rafa Nadal. Rafa Nadal.
Yeah, that was Pista Rafa Nadal, but French Open has Court. So like they offered to rename it, but
Wow.
Nadal
I would have
politely
taken it if I was Rafa.
politely declined, and instead they came with the idea of like cementing his footprint on the court, like right next to the net. I think
He's
it
such
actually
a
works
humble
out better.
king. He's probably like Philippe Chatrier has all of the legacy and historic reference of like that court's called Philippe Chatrier. So he's like, I'm not going to put my name on it because he's a humble king. That's why.
And here's his statue outside. I took a picture of his statue while I was there.
Same.
Okay, so the second stat for Nadal is 81 consecutive wins on clay.
You're beautiful.
Now, fun
Again.
trivia. We all know who ended that streak. We all knew that it was Fed who ended his streak at the Hamburg final.
Yes.
But I don't think any of you can name who was the last person to beat Rafa before that streak started, or even the tournament.
Before it started,
So this is this is when he's like 17.
someone like Carlos Moy.
Nope. So
Is it
all
Federer?
happened. No, you probably don't even remember this player. So
Who is
it was April 2005 in the Valencia Open quarterfinals. There was a Russian player called Igor Andreev
Okay.
Oh yeah.
who beat him in strict sets. Yeah,
Oh,
that was before the first Roland Garros title.
Yeah. And probably you could come up with a trivia of naming everybody who's ever beat Nadal on clay anyway, because it wouldn't be that many. You could probably like name them all within the fingers of your hands, because I don't think that many people have beat him in.
Well,
clay.
there are only 3 players who ever beat him at the French Open. Money, can you name them?
Well, I know now it's been Zverev, because the last time he was playing, he beat him. It's Soderling and Djokovic.
Yeah, end of list. Well, Djokovic
of
beat him
list.
twice.
Yeah. This is my favorite. This is one of my favorite stats for Rafa, because it's like Federer's longevity and dominance across the Grand Slam finals condensed into the clay season, which is basically, as we know, Rafa's specialty. Even though his career then evolved to become much more complete and he's won at least 2 Grand Slams on every surface, his dominance on clay is akin to Federer's, that real dominant period of being
And that brings us to the last stat, which is that Nadal has attained double-digit number of titles in 4 different tournaments. Obviously all in clay, but can you imagine double-digit number of titles in 4 different tournaments?
Yeah,
14 titles at Roland Garros, 12 at Barcelona Open, 11 titles at
Madrid
Monte Carlo,
and Rome, surely.
Rome,
and 10 titles at Rome.
I love
those
him. And so
those 4
coming
tournaments
back
combined.
to our theme, give me a break from big 3 comparisons. In the last couple of years, there have been some comparisons of Nadal comparing Iga's streak at Roland Garros with Nadal and saying that she's the Nadal of clay. And I remember even then saying to you guys, Give me a break from these comparisons with Rafa, because yes, she's great on clay and she's done really well at Roland Garros. It's too premature to be able to call her the Nadal and compare her streaks with Rafa, because
when she gets to double digits, maybe
then
we can
start
enter
comparing.
her into this conversation.
It still gives me goosebumps. During the farewell ceremony, read which years he won, obviously in French, 14 titles all the way from 2005, like in French, all the way to 2022.
Yeah.
That long list is just...
It's like music to my ears. I could hear it all day. And off the back of his amazing achievements in France at the French Open, the French have basically just adopted Rafa as their own. And so when Paris was hosting the Olympics, even though it's not very common for somebody who's not of that country to be a torchbearer, they got Rafa to be one of the final torchbearers. And I definitely shed some tears when that happened. I was so emotional for Rafa watching it happen.
Iconic photo.
It was glorious. So well deserved. His all of the kind of accolades he gets and all of the respect he gets is so well deserved, because people don't just respect him for his achievements. It's also how he has represented himself and the sport at a global stage. So we've loved Federer for really putting tennis on the map in a way that it never really was looked at before then. Tennis has always been a popular sport, and the rivalries from the 80s and the 90s, have made lots of headlines, but Federer was really the guy that people started seeing as this role model, kind of just this perfect human being who's such a high
tennis
achiever.
cool.
He made tennis cool.
He really did. He was elegant. That
he's
single-handed backhand.
Yeah.
How many shots of him headband? The iconic cardigan. Everything about that man was just
how he carries himself, and he's such a great diplomat. So outside of being such a great athlete, he's just such a great ambassador.
We could add another record, another unbreakable record.
Give it to us,
That
Lauren.
is, he won 19 consecutive ATP fans' favorite title.
Yeah, Federer did, right?
He won it every year until he retired.
If it was eligible to vote for him, people would still be voting for him.
Yeah.
People would still be voting for him. He's the number one most loved person. I
think the year after retired, it was Nadal who won it for the first time or something.
Exactly.
But he only won it because Fed was not eligible anymore.
I imagine, though, if you get the results of those, I imagine Rafa is going to be second
100%.
Every year.
I was just going to say, the reason why I brought this up was that because Rafa's like that, 5 years younger or so, and he was always number two, but looking up to Federer, chasing him as a rival, but he talks about it a lot. He's always looked up to Federer. I just know because he's joined the pro circuit so young, he was 17. He's embodied a lot of how Roger represents himself. Even though Nadal comes from a humble background, he's got that really solid upbringing, how he presents himself and just the kind of sportsman he is. I know a lot of that is learnt behavior from Roger. So that's the kind of impact Roger has had, not just on the world at large, kids watching him and all of us being inspired by him. He's inspired his peers.
Exactly.
So Roger is just he's the king. He's the king. He's our godfather.
But then we must also give credit to Djokovic, who objectively holds most records now. And so we're going to talk about
moving on to Djokovic.
Most impressive records. So I've picked out three. First is the double Golden Masters, which means he's won every Masters 1000 tournaments at least twice.
That's actually impressive.
In comparison, both Federer and Nadal only won 7 out of 9.
Yeah.
Fed never won Monte Carlo or Rome, although he was finalist on multiple occasions. Nadal never won Miami or Paris Masters, but Djokovic won them all at least twice. And unlikely, but if he manages to win Monte Carlo once more before he retires, it would be a triple Golden Masters.
He's only missing one Monte Carlo?
Monte Carlo is the only tournament that he's won less than 3 times. Every other Masters, he has got
That's
least 3
blowing my
titles.
mind in real time.
I didn't actually know that.
It's
That's
Monte
phenomenal.
Carlo that is hindering him.
Look who's going to be trying for Monte Carlo, because no doubt that will be a stat that he will be aware of.
Yeah.
And knowing Djokovic and the man he is, he will be wanting that accolade just as
That's
badly as he wants another Grand Slam, I assume. Because it's something
Because
for him to check
has
off.
completed tennis. He has reached every level and he's completed the game. It's like there's no other levels. The game's
He
over
has
and he won.
indeed. And
He's completed it.
He's
and
beat
he
tennis
was number
on
one.
extreme mode.
And he held number 1 for a record 428 weeks. Well, he accumulated the most ranking points on the 6th of June 2016 after he finally won Roland Garros for the first time. He accumulated a total of 16,950 points in that week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And in that week, the second was Andy Murray, who only in brackets got 8,915.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous stat.
Those were the years.
Okay, so now we've heard different stats. Give me your top 3. Which 3 are the most unbreakable? They're all quite unbreakable.
I'm going to throw out Federer's consecutive streak of not retiring and Nadal's Roland Garros. There's 2, I think. The hard, solid, not breaking. Is there a third?
I agree. And then the third I will add to that is, well, with Djokovic, it's really hard to say which stat, because the fact is he's got every tournament, every Masters 1000, as you discussed, the ATP finals, all the Grand Slams, and the gold medal. So he has achieved all of the major trophies in the tennis, in tennis. And I think that is, do you think that Alcaraz and Sinner will do that? Is that really? I think that is extraordinary, and I don't think that will happen again.
Especially if it's
like
a triple, especially if it's a triple, right? Like if he wins Monte Carlo again,
yeah,
that one is just, that's another unbreakable one.
And don't forget, he has already achieved triple career Grand Slam because he has won every slam at least thrice.
Yeah, but he only has the 1 gold medal, and so I think that, like with Djokovic, it's like, where do you even start? I think his career is unbeatable. His career is absolutely unbeatable. There's so many things, like lift the lid on anything, and it's like he's done something absolutely extraordinary there. So the longevity and the ability to perform at his level for as long, I think that he will probably be the oldest to retire when he retires. And so his career, just in terms of longevity, will be the most exemplary thing about him, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, but we could talk about this forever. Like, we could talk about how great the big 3 are forever. But
So today our pod has decided that 0 retirements from 1,526 matches, 14 Roland Garros titles, and all the career accolades are the 3 most unbreakable records.
I think so.
Yep, agreed.
Put my money behind that. Okay, moving on to our next segment, which is check this out. Lauren, I understand you've got a really cool stat, but about somebody else, not from the big 3, but somebody else that you want to share.
So in today's Check This Out, we've got Medvedev, who famously never won the same tournament twice in his career, ever, until last week. He finally won Dubai Open for the second time. And he broke his streak in style because he got a walkover in the final, which means he actually broke his streak by spending exactly 0 minutes on the court.
You broke his streak by not even playing. So
How
lovely.
cool is that?
Do you reckon that helped him in getting that title?
Yeah.
Because it could have been playing, could have been playing on his head. Could have been mind games.
How many total titles does he have now?
So he's got 22 singles titles in 21 different tournaments.
21 were all unique titles. That's brilliant. That's also one of my favorite stats. He's got 21 titles, which is in itself a huge achievement.
That's the opposite. That's the opposite of Nadal, who's won the same tournament over and over.
The same tournaments over and over again. Yeah.
And then we have Medvedev.
So good old Medvedev has won 21 titles, and all unique.
All unique, never repeat.
I love Medvedev's career is just so exceptional.
That's very good. Check this out moment.
That's actually awesome.
Yeah. But I guess it leads on to our next segment, really, in terms of the players that we have picked and that we will
Yes.
follow this season. So
Who are we love watching?
love watching.
Money, you start
Yeah.
first. Who do
Should
you
I
love
go first?
watching?
Okay. So my 2 picks for love watching are Lorenzo Musetti from the ATP Tour and Jasmine Paolini from the WTA Tour. So it's an Italian affair on this end. Lorenzo is my favorite player now that Rafa has retired, hands down. Lorenzo Musetti is the guy I will back anytime I see him in the draw. He's the guy I want to go furthest, and I want him to start winning titles because he only has 2 titles. He's been making a bunch of semifinals and finals in the last couple of years. He hasn't converted them. So I'm worried that he's got a bit of a back end of the tournament problem, but lots of positive signs since Athens final. He went 3 sets against Djokovic and basically played the most competitive finals he's ever played. So I truly believe that that could potentially be a turning point because he pushed himself in the final like he's never pushed himself before. And I think that will convert to a win this year. He's going to win at least a title. He's going to win at least 1 title. So he's my guy. I'm backing him till the end. I just love his one-handed backhand. It's the most beautiful thing in tennis. He reminds me so much of how Federer plays, but he is also so quick and athletic and very, very agile. So he just makes every corner of the court. He's just a beautiful watch. I could watch him play anything. I could watch him play in the rain against a player who's ranked 1,000. I don't care. If he's on the court, I'm watching him. And Jasmine Paolini is also somebody who I love watching. Her exceptional year when she made the French Open final and Wimbledon final. I believe it was 2020, I want to say 4. Lauren will correct me later. But she had just an amazing run. And while I have seen her on the circuit for years and years, that particular season, I was sold. I was like, I want this woman to win as much as she can during her career. I just love watching her play. So she's my pick. And all I know is that Musetti has been injured since the Australian Open, but he is scheduled to play in Indian Wells. So we're hoping that he's recovered now, but we'll yet to see. And Paolini is also playing Indian Wells singles and doubles. Her partner, Sara Irani, and Paolini are the Olympic champions. So they won the gold medal and they do quite well as a pair. So if we don't see Paolini win in singles, we often get to see her win in doubles anyway. So it keeps me happy. So those are my picks. Over to Rob.
I will just also add on that as well. We all know when Musetti's playing because there will be a message in the group chat of probably in capitals. I've seen it in capitals many times.
You've only seen Musetti written in capitals.
Yeah, so
lots of exclamation points.
For my love watch,
the Italian flag emoji.
Yeah,
that's it.
And a Forza.
So yeah, for my love watch. So I've always been a supporter of the British tennis players: Andy Murray, Heather Watson, Laura Robson, Katie Boulder. Now, my 2 for this season are Brits. They are Jack Draper on the ATP side. Jack's been injured since the US Open last year. He had a shoulder injury, but like Musetti, is scheduled to be back in for Indian Wells. So that's great news on that. 2025 Indian Wells was very successful for Jack. He did win. He won. He beat Alcaraz in the semis, I believe. Yeah, hopefully it could be another successful tournament for him, but I'm not holding out too much hope. Yeah, as long as he just gets back into playing injury-free and just making deep runs in the tournament this year, I don't think he can really complain, and I think it'll be a successful season for him.
Yeah, we want to see him healthy.
Yeah, that's the main thing. So that's Brit Watch for me. And then on the W2A side, we're looking at Emma Raducanu.
Yes, let's go.
Rado, as she was given the nickname in the Australian Open by a fan. Again, with her, I mean, I've seen her at Wimbledon a couple of times. Yeah, she's just as a British hopeful, she's probably our best bet for a Wimbledon singles champion. she had that deep run in her debut Wimbledon. But yeah, we're hoping to see a repeat Grand Slam of the US Open 2021, was it?
US Open
Yeah, US Open.
2021.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm hoping to.
The generational fairy tale run.
That was it. But yeah, hopefully we'll get to see Emma make some deep second weeks in the Grand Slams, and hopefully another British hopeful for a Grand Slam. So yeah,
Rob staying patriotic.
Okay, so over to me, I would say my picks are the big servers. I'm going to start by saying I like big servers. And on the men's tour, my pick would be Alexander Zverev, who is not getting his results at Grand Slams. I know. A very disappointing Australian Open semi-final exit recently, but I like his serves, his backhand, his impressive record against lefties. He is a controversial figure outside tennis, which I kind of think of him as separate. Some people might not agree, but that's my current take. And the fact that he also plays at such a high level, despite being type 1 diabetic, is impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very amazing feat, basically. So he is my pick on the men's tour. After Australian Open, he lost in Acapulco, but he will be back in Indian Wells. On the women's tour, my pick is our 2026 Australian Open singles champion, Yelena Rybakina.
Hey!
And I swear I'm not a glory hunter. I did not join the Rybakina squad after she won the AO. I was rooting for her since 2020.
You're an OG fan.
I know. And money can prove that.
Absolutely.
We were saying like she should have won her second Grand Slam title like way earlier, but it finally happened. So the joy.
That's right. Lauren and I are big Rybakina fans. Funny story. So all three of us live in different parts of the world. Lauren and Rob live in the UK. I live in Australia. So the time zones are all over the place, but we follow the tennis, especially Grand Slams, on our group chat. And we were watching the semifinals of Wimbledon 2004, where she was playing Krejcikova, the eventual finalist and winner. Krejcikova, I believe she was playing. And she was doing quite well in that match, seemingly about to clinch the win when Rob, I think, was in a work meeting. Lauren and I were watching the match and were like texting the whole time in our group chat. Rob joins in just as I think we're in the back end of the final set. He logs onto the match, starts watching it, and immediately Rybakina starts playing poorly. Like inexplicably, she's playing well, and then Rob joins and starts watching, and she starts playing really bad and loses the match. Lauren and I had whiplash. We were like, what happened? We thought we had this in the bag. She was doing so well. Rob joins the chat.
Rob joins the conversation.
So we decided that the only explanation is that
Rob is a bad omen for her.
The thing is, though,
Lauren and I banned him from ever watching another Rybakina match, and that hasn't changed. And Rob's held on to that because even the AO final, we gave him a pass and we said, you can join in if you like. And Rob's like, no, I won't do it.
I'd never hear the end of it if she lost that final, and I was watching it. So
I
had my doubts as well because I don't think I've ever really seen her win, apart from when I saw her at Wimbledon, like live. On the TV, I don't think I've ever seen her win.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. Lauren and I slated him so bad for that loss that Rob wrote Rybakina an IG DM apologizing that he joined the match late and that she lost. And needless to say, she didn't reply. In my head, she saw it and she chucked her phone across the room and said, this guy, I lost because of this guy.
I'm probably blocked because of it.
And so Rybakina is my pick on the women's tour. And again, big serves and ice cool on court.
That's it, yeah.
This face.
That's it. You can't beat her, like, composure. She's just chillest woman. She's a great champion. I love her as well. Talking about our group chat, another thing, other than Mercedes in large caps with lots of exclamations, a thing that you quite often see in our group chat is that when Zverev is playing deep into a tournament and inevitably starts losing.
And we know it's inevitable.
And then I start slating Lauren because I'm like, your boy is just not a champion. He's just not a champion. He just doesn't have the mentality. In our chat history, there's probably at least on 17 different occasions I said, your boy's not a champion.
Which unfortunately is true.
It's true.
Hate to say that, but it's true.
So
I mean,
yeah, it'll be fun to...
he's still got the chance to do something.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, we'll find out this season, won't we? Yeah.
We'll find out this season.
With love watching.
We'd love watching. So it will be fun to follow our faves via the pod and just to check how they're doing week on week. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of our first episode, guys.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back hopefully next week with our next topic that we'll be discussing whether we want a break from or not. But for this week, it's over and out. Bye, everyone.
Thanks all. Take care.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.